Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. And you guys will be happy that I am not going to talk much on this call. We've been a little sick this week, and I didn't plan on getting sick the same week that we actually had a much better speaker than I coming anyways. It just all really worked for me very, very well. So we're excited to have Nicole here, and we're just going to start with one thing, and that is we are going to welcome Nicole to the family. I'm a total sap, so literally when I said that, I almost cried because that's what I do. And I'm telling you right now is the fact that Nicole wants to be part of the Cultivate Wins family. She knows how much I love her, how much I respect her, and how much just bringing real value to people means to me. That's not a saying. That's not just a marketing thing. That is so crazy real. It's not even funny. And the fact that she has the heart, as we are talking through what she's going to talk about today, everything that we talked about when we were preparing this, what would we need to share to bring real value? What would we need to share? Okay, so what would that sound like if we were going to make sure that it brought real value to someone? How would that need to be communicated so that someone gets real value? And she's shaking her head. Every time I talk about bringing real value or doing something with compassion, she's like, yeah. All in on all of it, which I'm just so grateful, Nicole, to welcome you to the family. And she is definitely has openings for coaching. But there's a few people that found out that she was going to be a Cultivate Wins coach before this came up. So she already has started her coaching clients in the background. We just haven't announced it yet. So she's got just a couple more spots that are open. And what we're going to do in the comments below here, I'm going to share it right now, is if you'd like to, there is Coach Nicole's web address so that you can kind of look at her landing page, what her background is. She's going to talk about it a bit in here, but this is not about promoting her. It's the topic that she wanted to talk about that I'm crazy passionate about. Crazy passionate about. So I'm going to step aside and you can all applaud. And then Nicole, you are so almost overqualified to talk about this next topic. I'm really excited about it.
I don't know about that.
So go for it, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. I'm so honored to be here and have this opportunity and to, of course, be joining the Cultivate Wins family. I really can't thank you enough for all of that. But enough of that. So the topic of our conversation today is consistent growth year over year, practical applications of the 5x5. So you're probably asking yourself right now, who the heck am I? Why am I even remotely qualified to speak about this? So I want to just give you a little bit of background for some context here. So we launched Dotted and Crossed in 2018, January of 2018. That first year we closed 426 transactions. Our second year in 2019, we closed 882 transactions. In 2020, we closed 1,500 transactions. And then last year in 2021, we have closed 2,200 transactions. And then this year, 2022, year to date, we've closed 750 transactions so far. We have 13 total team members. And as of this morning, we have 262 active clients this year. So we receive about an average of 5 submissions per client. So when I was reflecting in preparation for this webinar, and I was thinking about, how are we able to grow the way that we did in the time frame that we did? There were really 3 specific things that came to mind that are ultimately the reason why Dotted and Crossed was able to grow consistently year over year. And I'm not saying that there aren't other ways of doing this, but we could not have grown the way that we did without these 3 things. So first is creating a passive lead source. Second is building a referral-based business. And then third is growing your team by hiring. And I would love to cover all 3 of these points today, but just a heads up, I don't know if we will be able to get to them all, really, because hiring itself is actually its own topic. It's to be its own webinar in and of itself. But my goal for you today, or everyone watching this, is for you to be able to take home some specific actionable steps that you can apply to your business to help you grow year over year. So for starters, creating a passive lead source. The simplest, most effective way to create a passive lead source is this: set up a contract submission form on your website. This actually does a lot of things for your business, but let me tell you why and how it works. So we require every single client that we have to submit our form on the website before we will touch their file. This allows the following. Number one, it allows us to set a standard with both our agents and the TCs on our team. Our standard is we will not touch your file until you submit the form on our website. If you submit the form after 4 p.m. during the business day, we'll process it the following business day. This means that we have very clear, freakishly predictable expectations for both our TCs and for our agents. Our agents know when their files are going to be processed. Our TCs know that if it's 4:05 and their task list is cleared, they can leave early for the day. Because of our standard, we're able to provide consistent service to our agents, right? So number two, this also ensures that we receive all of the information that we need to process the file. It acts as a CYA for our TCs, right? Like, how many of us have found out about a referral fee that our agent didn't tell us about until after the deal closed? We have a question on our submission form literally asking, are you paying a referral fee on this transaction? Guess what? We added that question after I missed a referral fee. If they answer no and they do have a referral fee, well, they can't get mad at us because they literally answered a question that said they didn't have a referral fee, right? So this allows our TCs and our agents to work more efficiently and more effectively. Our TCs are not chasing their agents down for missing information, and our agents aren't having to circle back to their TC after they submit a file to get, to provide all of that missing information. The third thing that this does is it allows us to very easily track our numbers for the business. You can set up your form submission to connect to Google Sheets or Airtable or whatever you're using. And now you have a way to very easily track how many new contracts you're getting, how many active clients do you have. You can track your submissions by team member. This is a truly scalable solution to actually managing your business and knowing your numbers. So now you're thinking, well, that's all well good, Nicole, but like, how the heck is this a passive lead source? Like, what are you talking about? So that's actually the best part of the whole thing. Every single contract submission that you receive is a hit on your website for Google Analytics. This web traffic will organically increase your business without you having to do any SEO, any advertising, literally nothing. The best part about this is as your business grows, your web traffic is going to grow right along with it, and they will feed off of each other. So as of right now, Dotted and Crossed has received 1,331 submissions on our website this year. That's 1,331 hits on Google. The result of this, if you Google Nashville Transaction Coordinator, we are on the first page. Never paid a dime. We're not advertising, literally never done any SEO. The result of this is that almost 50% of our business comes from organic website traffic. Agents in Nashville, they Google looking for a transaction coordinator, they find our website, they like the look of our website, they reach out, we convert the lead. It is insane how well this works and how little effort it takes to set up. But then you don't have to stop there. What are some other ways that you can drive traffic to your website to increase your Google Analytics? You can build a new lead form on your website for people to set up consultations with you, right? You can build an onboarding form for your new leads to become clients. Personally, for Dotted and Crossed, we don't actually like having our onboarding form directly on the websites. We don't want agents that we've never spoken to, we've never vetted, to go and onboard without ever having a conversation with them. But what you can do is create a hidden page on your website that is only accessible if you have the exact URL. So when our clients go to dottedandcrossed.net/onboarding, you're still getting that website hit without having to worry about new agents finding that page and onboarding when you know nothing about them. And of course, this is going to vary depending on what your process is, right? But for us, we like to have a conversation, vet the agent, make sure that we're a good fit for them before they onboard. If you go to dottedandcrossed.net, you won't find our onboarding page looking for it. You have to have the exact URL. Another option is you can build a listing submission form if you offer pre-listing services. You can build a compliance submission form if you offer compliance-only services. Our newest thing that we've added is we built out an application form for new hires. If anybody wants to join our team and work with us, they have to go to our website and fill out the application. So now I know what you're thinking. I know what some of you are thinking because I see this talked about in the groups all the time, right? It's a great idea. I love the idea of a form submission. It would make my life so much easier, but my agents are never going to fill out a form. How am I going to get them to do that? I can't even get them to execute the contract. They're telling me I have to tell them they have to execute a form. Like, get real. Like, that's not going to happen, right? 99% of the time, this is about how you present your standard to your agent. You have to learn how to communicate your systems and your standards to your agent. And that is a learned skill. You have a form submission and a standard surrounding it because you have compassion for your agents. You know that they are super busy, and there is nothing more annoying than having to chase them down after they've already handed you a contract to get that missing information that you need. Trust me, it's literally as annoying for them as it is for you. If you have a contract submission form and you don't honor that standard surrounding it, then you lack compassion for yourself and for your agents. If you tell your agent that this is the standard to work with us, and then you don't honor it, all you've done is muddied the water for them. So here's a script for you if you are implementing this for the first time, right? Hey, agent, I understand I've never asked you to submit a form before. However, I'm always trying to improve my process and my customer service. And this very short submission form is going to allow me to process your contract in less time with less follow-up on your end after you've handed it off. This contract submission form is going to allow me to consistently provide better service to you and to your client. And on that note, I do want to make a really important point, okay? Your submission form needs to be short. Do not ask your agent to rewrite the contract in your submission form, okay? It needs to require only the fields that you have to have in order to process the file, that information that you are chasing down from the agent after they send you a purchase agreement. Don't ask for the freaking purchase price. Don't ask for the cooperating agent's info or the title info unless that information is not already in your purchase and sale agreement. Whenever I see TCs complaining that their agents don't want to fill out their submission form, I look at their form and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to fill that out either. You're having them recreate the contract on a 3-page submission form that's slow to load and not mobile friendly. Of course, you're going to have problems honoring that system. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it relevant to the information that you actually have to have in order to process your file. Then, because you have compassion for yourself and for your agents, you will honor that system once you have it set up. So here are the action steps for that point, right? Set the standard. Our standard is we must have this, this, and this to process the contract. Build the system surrounding the standard. So we have a contract submission form on our website, which is how we get this, this, and this, that required information. Honor the system. We will not touch your file without the submission form because we have compassion for you, agent, and for ourselves. Now, before I move on to point 2, there are 2 other ideas that I want to mention as far as ways that you can build another type of passive lead source and other ways of capturing business, okay? One idea, this is from David, thank you very much. We haven't actually implemented this yet, but it is on our to-do list. But that is taking the hyperlink for your contract submission form and putting that in your email signature. That way, when the cooperating agent sees your emails, they're going to see submit a contract. I'm going to click that and see what that is all about, right? And guess what that does? Even if they don't submit the contract to you, it's still another hit on Google. It's still increasing your Google Analytics, which is increasing your organic website traffic, which is going to increase the number of leads that you're getting in your pipeline. When your agent texts you right after you implement this mission form and they're like asking you for the link, and they're like, hey, I know you want me to fill out this form. I can't find the link. Like, where do I need to go? You know, you can say, it's right there. Go to any email that I've sent you and you're going to find it in my email signature. You can click it right there. It can't be any easier than that. So that's one really easy way that you can capture more business and make it even easier for your existing clients to follow your process at the same time. Another thing that you can implement that we have added to passively capture cooperating business, the cooperating agent on the transaction, is 2 email templates to the cooperating agent. And I call this passive capture because of the tool that we use. Makes it so easy to send an email template. It's not even funny. You click a button, it's essentially passive lead generation, right? So we have 2 email templates that we send to our cooperating agent. And it's ultimately up to the TC to decide on this. 1, 2 to 3 days after binding, if the cooperating agent has not responded to our initial email reaching out, we have a template that reads like, hey, agent, I can imagine how slammed you must be with this crazy market. I wanted to follow up and ensure that you received my previous email and ask if you're currently working with a TC. If not, I would be more than happy to jump in and TC your side of the file to help you get it closed and get it paid. Super easy. Second one is a recruiting email that we send out at the end of the transaction. That email thanks them for their work in getting the deal closed. It asks for feedback on how we did from their perspective, if there's anything that we can improve. And it mentions that we are for hire if they happen to be looking for help, but we don't actually ask them for business. It's more of a thank you. How can we do better? That's what the purpose of that email is. And we do capture a lot of cooperating agents because of that email. So those 2 more very simple ideas, ways that you can build that passive lead source to grow your business. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my next point. Building a referral-based business is point number 2. And I'm going to allude to some of the same concepts here that I've already mentioned in the last point. Apparently, I've already adopted my David Breckheimer style because I like to say the same thing over and over again. But we're going to try to go a little bit more in depth here, okay? Building a referral-based business is all about your standards and the systems that you use to honor those standards. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, you should know that I never ask my agents for referrals. I don't ask title companies. I don't ask lenders. I don't ask for referrals. Maybe I'm missing the mark there, but it's just not a part of my process. My team doesn't ask for referrals. It's just not something that we do, right? But 50% of our business is referral based and we don't ask for them. How is that possible? When you create standards for your business and you build systems surrounding those standards, you honor those systems, it allows you to provide an extremely high level of service. Then the referrals are going to come organically without you having to ask. So, what are some of the standards that you have to have in order to provide a high level of service? For one, you have to have a standard of communication, right? This is going to include your hours of operation, but also when will you respond to requests from agents and their clients? What is the agent's expectation if you get a call from a buyer at 8 p.m. on a Friday night? What do they think you're going to do, right? You have to have standards for processing a file. Again, what do you require from your agent in order to start working the file? What tasks in the contract to close process do you own? What tasks do your agents own? What is your internal system for owning those tasks and executing them? So now I want to give you some examples of how to implement this. Our communication standard at Dotted and Crossed is that we will respond to all agent and buyer-seller requests within the same business day. Doesn't mean we have to have all the answers or the information or the document that they need or whatever, but we will acknowledge the request and set the expectation for when we will be able to have what they're looking for. That's the standard that we've communicated to our agents so that they know what the expectation is. That standard also reinforces our hours, which are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, So our agent knows if we get a call from their buyer or an email from their buyer at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, that we're not going to respond to them until Monday, right? Now, the goal for our company is for TCs to respond to any requests made during the business day within 2 hours. That's the goal. It's not the standard. When we're able to meet that goal, it means that we are exceeding that agent's expectation at a very high level, right? So then you have your standards of processing a file. I mentioned this in the previous point, but in order to start a file, we have to have 3 things. We have to have the submission form, we have to have the executed contract, and we have to have the agency agreement with their client. If the agent is missing something, we honor that standard. When an agent sends over an executed purchase and sale agreement, but they don't submit a file, we'll respond, hey, congratulations on the new contract. I can't wait to start processing this as soon as I receive that submission form. When we receive a submission form with an unexecuted contract, we'll respond. Thank you so much for submitting your new contract. I will get started on this as soon as I have an executed purchase and sale agreement. Again, we honor those standards because we have compassion for ourselves and compassion for our agents. If our agents are not getting the contract executed before they hand it off, they're doing a massive disservice to themselves and to their clients. If they aren't getting their agency agreement signed before their client goes under contract, they're doing a massive disservice to themselves and to their clients. And frankly, they're kind of failing at their job, period. So those are our standards. And now we build the system to honor those standards. Your system also needs to accommodate the 80% of real estate that is predictable, right? So in order to do that, whatever tools that you're using to run that system also have to follow David's 5x5. And when you're auditing your system to see whether it's working, I would start with what is stealing your joy and what is stealing your agent's joy. If you are having a problem providing consistent high-level service because you have too much volume, you either have a scalability issue within your systems or you have a hiring problem, which is point 3 that we'll get to, right? If your systems are truly optimized, you should be able to handle a very high level of transactions with few to no mistakes. So I want to give you some practical examples that you can use to audit your existing system to see if that's your problem or not, right? Is your checklist broken down step by step so that it is truly duplicatable? For example, take scheduling a final walkthrough with a buyer. We have 7 separate tasks for scheduling a final walkthrough because we literally break everything down step by step, right? Reach out to the agent. When would you like to schedule the final walkthrough? Reach out to the buyer, see if they can make that time. Reach out to the listing agent, make it confirm, right? We have 7 separate tasks for scheduling the final walkthrough. On top of that, we have 4 separate email templates regarding the final walkthrough. Again, to make sure that no balls get dropped. Everything is broken down step by step. Because of the specific tool that we use, those templates are auto-populated with all of the correct parties, the property address, the date, the time of the final walkthrough. This prevents any stupid mistakes by mixing up a file with another transaction. How many TCs, especially when you're new, have accidentally emailed the wrong party on a transaction or gotten one file mixed up with another? I know I have. But because we finally dialed in and truly optimized our system to follow the 5x5, it no longer happens as long as we are honoring that system and emailing out of it. So I want to take this even further. We have an email template for literally almost every single task within our checklist. This allows us to scale our business because it allows us to handle more transactions. It is duplicatable between every member of our team because everyone is using the same template. So there's less difference between TCs, and it's also freakishly predictable for your agents because they know what their TC is going to do and when. When our agents look at their transaction calendar and they see that today is the earnest money deadline for 123 Main Street, they know without a doubt that they're going to see an email template from their TC reaching out to the holder of the earnest money verifying receipt. They know that their TC is then going to send another email template notifying the seller that it was received, or sending a copy of the earnest money to the lender or to the cooperating agent. If you want to build a referral-based business, you have to be the most predictable thing in your agent's business. David, I know you love to take this to the next level, and you are the most predictable thing in the agent's lives. I don't quite think Diamond Crust is there just yet, but we are aspiring to be. Right now, we are focused. We are the most predictable thing in our business. The beautiful thing about this whole process is that once you have that 80% broken down step by step, following the 5x5, what that allows you to do is focus on the 20% of real estate that is not predictable. Like going the extra mile for your agents to provide that high quality customer service to them and to their buyers and sellers. If my system was not following the 5x5, it would not allow me to call my agent's 87-year-old seller who doesn't have an email address to have a conversation with him about every single email that I would have sent. If my system was not following the 5x5, it would not allow me to help my agent find the HOA documents for their listing for their seller who inherited a property without any of the information. If my system was not following the 5x5, it would not allow me to take my agent's call at 4 p.m. on a Friday afternoon to listen to them vent for 10 minutes about how many offers he's had to write and he still can't find his clients a home. You have to build systems that your team will honor, period. Honoring the systems will allow you to provide exceptional customer service. That high level of customer service is going to have every single client you have talking about you to all of their agent friends. That high level of customer service is going to give you all of those referrals without you having to ask or do anything at all. Okay, it looks like we are going to have some time to get to point 3. I'm excited. So the last point that I want to talk to you guys about is growing your team, right? So now you've got this passive lead source, you're building a referral-based business, you have all of this new business coming in. You're going to have to hire, right? It's impossible to consistently grow year over year if you don't have enough manpower to manage the number of transactions you have. Because even when your systems are completely on point, every single TC still has a limit to how much they can effectively manage, right? So at some point, you're going to have to get either another person, whether they are assisting you with your files or whether they are managing their own. It's also really hard to grow year over year if you're constantly dealing with turnover when you do make a hire. I think it's worth mentioning that at Dotted & Crossed, we have 13 team members. And in the last 5 years since we launched, we have had one person turn in her notice, and she actually ended up coming back to us a year later, and she's now one of our top TCs. So I have a little bit of experience on hiring and retention, which is arguably even more important than hiring itself. So that said, here's a few points on hiring. I'm going to go as in-depth as I possibly can, but I want to give you some specific things to think about regarding growing your own team. Because like I said before, hiring is really its own whole other course, right? So the first thing I want to mention is determining when you need to hire. The second thing is going to be onboarding and training. And then the third piece is going to be that retention. So determining when you need to hire. Part of this is going to depend on how your business is structured, whether you are hiring a 1099 contractor or a W-2 employee. Here's my disclaimer. I am not an attorney. I am not going to tell you which way to go. I'm not going to tell you if you can go 1099. If you are exploring the 1099 route, you have to talk to an attorney and make sure you're following the IRS's rules. For starters, if you're going 1099, you can't tell them when to work, you can't tell them how to work, you can't pay them for training, right? One major benefit of the 1099 is that timing your hires is less of a problem from a cash flow perspective because you can pay per file when the deal closes. And that's a huge benefit. Obviously, we're small business owners. We have to have that cash flow, right? You don't have that massive payroll bill before you start making money for the business. Again, though, you have to talk to an attorney about the way you have your business structured, the way you're going to set your hires up, what you are going to have them do, and see if you legally can go 1099. Nobody wants to be hit with a massive bill from the IRS saying that they've had W-2 employees and now they owe all this back payroll taxes. Not a good time. If you are going the W-2 route, the most effective way to deal with that payroll expense right after you make a hire is obviously to make sure that you always have 6 months of business expenses in the bank so that you have the cash flow to cover that new employee's first couple of months while they're being trained and you're filling their pipeline. Honestly, even if you're going 1099, you should still have 6 months of expenses. That's just a rule of thumb, regardless as a business owner, because you never know what's going to happen. But for W-2, it's going to give you that cushion that you need in order to make sure that you can make that payroll while you're getting them built up till they get to the point that they are making you money, right? So you're going to look at your budget. You need to know, how many files do you have now? How many files can your existing team manage effectively? How many agents are you signing on a weekly and monthly basis? How many current clients do you have now? And what is their average production? What is the average production of the agents that you're signing on a weekly and monthly basis? Then ideally, you're going to hire 30 to 60 days before you actually need the help. If you wait until you're too full, you're too busy, you can't take on more business, and then you start looking to hire, you've missed the mark. You're already behind. Hiring ahead of when you need the help is going to ensure that you are able to effectively train before you're so slammed that you literally don't have time to. Because outside of finding the right candidate, training and onboarding is a massive part of that retention piece and is going to ensure the success of your hire. So here's a tip for you. You should be constantly interviewing and talking with talent, whether you are actively hiring right now or not. Because even if you're not ready right this second, you will be hiring at some point again in the future. If you're following all of these tips, if you're setting up your passive lead source and building your referral-based business, at some point you're going to need to hire again, right? Here at Dotted Across, we have someone waiting in the wings. And literally right now, as of last week, I have a complete rock star TC that I just interviewed about a week ago. We are not hiring right now, but she is so excited for the opportunity to work at Dotted Across that she's not interviewing anywhere else and is going to stay at her current job until we're ready for her. Obviously, this isn't going to work with every single candidate, right? Your mileage may vary, but my point is this does work. And when it works, it is a wonderful and very effective and scalable way for you to ensure that you don't lose any time trying to find a candidate after you already need the help. So always be talking to people. That's why we added the application on our website, right? It helps the Google Analytics, but it means that people can constantly, like I get resumes and applications often on a daily basis, sometimes on a weekly basis. I'm constantly talking to people and trying to have people lined up for when I'm hiring. I just hired somebody at the beginning of this month. I'm not hiring again for a couple of months, yet I'm still constantly interviewing and talking to people. So that brings me to my next point, which is onboarding and training. And onboarding and training is literally just as important as finding the right candidate. What does your new hire onboarding process look like? Is it actually duplicatable and you do the same thing for every single hire? Do you have it broken down step by step? Do you have email templates built directing your directing your new hire, when do they send in their bio and their headshot, entering their banking information in your payroll software, telling them to download any apps that they might need to be a member of the team, right? Building that system is literally the same process as building your TC management system. You have to establish your standards and your benchmarks surrounding those new hires regarding their onboarding and training. When should your new TC or assistant be able to input their file with 100% accuracy? Is it at the 2-week mark? Is it at the 30-day mark? What does that benchmark look like for your business? When should your new TC be able to process their own file without any help? How many transactions are they going to have assistance with or have a mentor on to make sure that they're following your company's standards? When are you going to add them to your website as a team member with a headshot and bio? Do you have all of that built out, standardized in a checklist that you can duplicate and scale and continue to do the same thing over and over with each hire? For the actual training itself, you obviously also need to make sure that that is also scalable and duplicatable. The easiest way to do this is video. We now have a dedicated person on our team that is responsible for training all of our new TCs. It's amazing. I have that off my plate. It's the best thing I ever did. And she is in the process of building out a training video library of literally everything that we do. She is doing so much of a better job than I ever could that it's not even funny. She is making a ton of bite-sized videos from 3 to 30 minutes long, depending on what the topic is, that new people can reference as many times as they want. So what this does is it massively reduces that time commitment needed when you first bring someone on board. And it also prevents you from having to reinvent the wheel every time you hire. Right? So this is truly duplicatable. It is truly scalable. It is efficient. It is effective. It is also freakishly predictable. The last piece that I want to mention is retention. And all of these points are very important, but arguably you find the right person, you finally get them hired and trained, you think everything is going great. But what happens when they suddenly turn in their notice and you had no idea that they were unhappy or that anything was amiss? I think a lot of people immediately assume that retention only has to do with pay, the amount of money that they're making. And of course, pay is extremely important. How you're compensating is very, very important. I'm not trying to downsize that, but it's not the only piece of the puzzle. Far from it. I think a really big part of retention is based on your company culture and the support that you provide to your team. At Dotted and Crossed, our culture is that we are fun and we are a safe place. Our TCs know that they can ask any question without judgment, no matter how stupid or how they should have known it before, no matter how stupid it might come across, right? They know that they can vent about lenders or title companies or agents or whatever, and they're not going to get in trouble or a slap on the wrist, right? My team members know that we have their backs when an agent that I just onboarded turns out to be a sociopath and accuses them of doing something completely insane. This has happened. I am working on getting better at vetting agents, but we onboarded an agent who turned out to be a complete sociopath. And he blatantly lied, and he came to me and accused our TC of messing up a transaction that he'd never submitted, that we had literally never touched, right? What happened when that happened, I stayed in curiosity, found out from the TC what actually happened, and realized that this guy was completely insane, right? I always had her back. I never went straight into judgment and assumed that we royally screwed up. Our team members know that we have their backs when they actually do make mistakes and mess up a file, right? We have their backs because they know that the standard is if they do make a mistake, they own it. They find a solution if possible, and then they implement a step to prevent the same mistake from happening again. So they're not afraid to come to us with mistakes. They know that we're going to support them and work through it with them. Our team members know that we have their backs when they get so slammed because they took on too many agents, or their agents had a really great weekend and they get 12 contracts in one day. Like, they know we have their backs and we're going to be there to support them, to help them get their files inputted and set up, whatever needs to happen. If we need to move agents from one TC to another, if we have a TC and an agent that they're just not getting along for whatever reason, right? They know that we have their backs and they can come to us with these issues. On top of that, we have one-on-ones with our team every other week, checking in to see how are they doing. Are they upholding their boundaries with their agents, right? How many hours are they working? Are they happy with how much money they're making? What's happening in their personal lives? Is there anything that we can do further to support them? I would argue that these pieces are just as important as the actual number that they are taking home every year. Every single aspect of the hiring process is important, but if you don't have them all dialed in, retention will be difficult to impossible. And then you're going to find yourself back at square one, needing help, right? That is what is going to prevent you from growing consistently year over year if you are not retaining the people that you bring on board. That is actually all that I have for the moment, but I would love to open it up to questions if anybody has anything or anything that they wanted to share.
First of all, that was so crazy good. So I don't know what anybody else was thinking that they were going to get when they came today, but when we talk about growing year over year, okay, I do believe with all my heart, at least I think Nicole and I believe this because we were saying this to each other on Wednesday. It's tough to try to do this in an hour, to be real honest with you, because I mean, you're trying to give so much. Frankly, each one of these three could have been a full on its own. I mean, they really could be, but
there's a fine line between too much and not enough.
Yeah, exactly. So what I want to do is just out of compassion for all of ourselves here is let's step back and let's just do a quick summary here. Is you definitely have a history. You have a real history of doing exactly what you're teaching here as far as growing year after year. I mean, going from 426 to 882 to 1500 to 2200. You have 13 team members with only one has ever even thought it would be a good idea to leave. And then they came back anyways, and they're one of your best TCs. Okay.
Yeah.
None of that story sucks. Okay. But then you look at what are the three things that you talked about that it takes as far as a recipe. What is your recipe? And I don't know that before we had spoken and you told me what your three were going to be, I guess that those were your three. So let's do that summary again. The summary was build a passive lead source. Now, those that have heard from me, I always say you need to know what your three passive lead sources are and know what your three active lead sources are. But you first have to know what the frick is the difference between a passive versus an active. Okay. So if that's something you're unfamiliar with, that's something I would say when you're looking at things like this. I love that you said, here are some action items for you. Okay.
Right.
Figure out in this little list, you're not going to nail all of these in the first week. Figure out where you want to be literally active. This is about application. None of this knowledge means anything if it's not applied. Okay. So look at what was covered today, and we're just doing a quick summary and say, that's the one I need to focus on this week. That's the one. That's the one. And then find out who you're going to stay accountable to on that. Okay. There are amazing people, amazing business owners on this call. Ask them, what is the one thing you're going to apply this next week? I'm going to apply this. Are you okay if I reach out to you 2 weeks from now? Totally. Make some contacts out there, people. Okay. This is an amazing community that will love on you like nobody's business. Okay. And I love that. Okay. So you said number one, the passive lead source.
Yep.
Which I really want to dive into right now, but I'll stop myself. Second one is the referral-based business. The one thing that people have kind of heard from me consistently is if you ever want to annoy me to no end, send me to a sales class that says one of these two things: always be closing or always be asking for business. Oh, bite me. So here's the deal. Okay. I'm not asking for business and I'm not closing. All I do is I do what it takes to earn the right to ask for the business. I will do what it takes to earn the right to ask for the business. And if I do that at a freakish level, I pretty much never have to ask for the business. In other words, I don't even ask for referrals. I never ask for referrals, and I get them nonstop. What do you have to do from a 5x5 to make it scalable, duplicatable, freakishly predictable, effective, and efficient, and lead with compassion like nobody's business to do what it takes to earn the right to ask for the business? I guarantee you will not have to ask for the business like everybody's telling you to ask for the business and ask for the referrals. You will get them. So I love that you brought that out. So passive lead source, referral-based business, and hiring. When you and I were talking, we weren't sure if you'd even get to that one today.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was funny how it all works out.
Yeah.
When you start.
And if we timed it, I bet you spent more time on that than any of them. And what I'd like to say is, as a leader, okay, you guys are all leaders within your own business or within someone else's organization. I will tell you that I love that you added that as 3, because I truly believe with all of my heart that if you want to grow year after year, but you constantly have a revolving door going around with your team and your staff, you do not have the capacity to focus on growing your business when this is a concern. That capacity doesn't exist when this exists. Okay. So I love that you had a chance to hit on that today, because you do have a reputation of having that retention there.
Yep.
And to not see that as an absolute integral.
Uh-oh. While we're waiting for David, actually something that I was thinking about, just to add to that is, agents are replaceable. I mean, at the end of the day, like you can, if an agent fires you for a mistake, or because of your team member made a mistake or whatever, I mean, yes, find the issue that caused the mistake. That's, of course, figure out why the ball was dropped and create a system surrounding that so it doesn't happen again. But agents are very easily replaceable. Your team members are not. I can go get a new agent today without, having to really do anything. I can't go and find an amazing rock star TC that's going to be an amazing long-term asset and help me grow my business the same way. It's just not. So have your TC's backs no matter what's happening. That is what is going to allow them to stay with you and for them to grow with you. You're going to create opportunities for them within your business, right? Like your vision should be big enough to encompass your existing team and where they want to go with their goals. That is how you're going to retain them for the long haul and continue to grow your business. We are just now at the point where we're really starting to build out our organizational chart, where people on the team are starting to take on additional responsibilities. Like I mentioned, I have somebody that's now doing training, right? Like we have somebody who's going to come on and be a manager. We have somebody else, on the team that is taking over like operations, right? Like we are building the team internally. We are, promoting from within. So, all of our team members who are interested in doing more than just being a TC, they know that they are going to continue to have more opportunities as Diamond Cross grows, along with our vision. And that is also going to massively help you keep those people. I don't know if David is coming back. I think we've lost him.
He's out of the Zoom. I'm trying to reach out to him if he's going to be coming back in. But maybe while we're waiting, does anybody from the audience have anything to share, or are they curious about something, or does Nicole need to expound on some things?
Please, is there anything? Yes.
Or do you have any questions in here? Maybe you can ask someone to share some of their highlights or takeaways or aha moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. Does anybody have anything that they was this valuable? Did anybody find any value out of this?
Nicole, I'm new to Peter McCollum's team. I'm just curious, being new, you talked about hiring and how important it is, obviously, to have a pipeline of your, qualified people. But is there an industry specifically, other than someone already being in real estate, that you found a great success in recruiting from?
That's a great question. I would say in general, because of our structure, we do hire people that are have experience in the real estate industry. However, I will say that a lot of our TCs have actually, we actually have 2 TCs on our team that are former therapists before they got into real estate. That because of their previous profession, they naturally have a lot of compassion. They're really good listeners and whatnot. And also contract law is another one for people who have a lot of attention to detail. They tend to, kind of naturally like the paperwork side of things and that contract process. But yeah, those are kind of the 2 industries that stick in mind of like where we've had multiple people when they got into the real estate career, before they joined Dotted and Cross, that's the background that they came from.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions?
We do have some comments in here. OMG, you're awesome. Thank you. And this was unbelievably helpful. It's good to know I'm on the right path with 1 and 2 and great ideas to expand that. 3 is where I struggle being busy enough to hire, but still have the time to train. Thank you, Sarah and Natasha.
Yeah. My thought on that, with being busy enough to hire, but still having time to train, like right now, while you're being busy, like, you can, add the Loom extension, to Chrome, and you could be recording yourself, like doing your day-to-day stuff, right? Like break this up into bite-sized pieces. When you start inputting a file, turn a video on it, record it, and kind of talk through your process while you're literally doing your job. And then you're going to start that process of creating that video library while you're actually working and still getting things done. So when you do hire somebody, you've got that bank of videos that you can kind of refer them to before you're ready to spend time one-on-one with them. And that will help a lot with that time commitment, because that's something that we really struggled with as well until we finally just started recording literally everything that we do.
All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Anne.
Yeah.
So I talked to someone who was a TC, and because I'm trying to figure out what I want my business to look like. I'm not there ready to hire, but I also know, like, I've done this for a year, and maybe I am not that super detail oriented person, and I'm more the operations, or maybe I'm the person that's going out to get the business. So I was talking to someone about maybe them being the TC and having that just be my passive income, right? Obviously I would do some files. But in talking with her, I learned that the rates that we charge here, like I charge $325 for a file. And so when I talk about a split, she's like, yeah, it's not going to work, because I'm working for someone else that they pay me $450 a file. Well, $450 is the price for the file before the split. So I'm trying to think of, I'm just trying to think like how I can make that work. Like maybe do I have to expand my services to include more so I can get that higher amount?
Exactly. Yes. So that's what I was going to say is, for the TC that's making $450 a transaction, and versus if you're assuming you're in the same market, they must be providing more service, like they're doing additional things. If you're $325, or if that's a very base level service, maybe you consider offering tiered levels of service, right? Like you have a basic package, you have a mid package, it's a slightly higher price point, you have a premium package that has more, even more services, or maybe you just go all the way with the full service. But yes, I will say, for the numbers to work, you have to think about the hours that it takes to complete the tasks that are included with that service. So what is the TC actually doing for the $325 that's different from what they're doing for the $450? And do those tasks in the middle. Like if agents are willing to pay the $450 and you're doing the same thing, then clearly you just need to raise your prices, right? But yeah, the solution to what you're talking about is, either offering some type of tiered service, or, telling the TC, like, look, yes, it is a lower rate, but because you're not doing nearly as much, you're going to be able to take on significantly more volume. And it's not going to, and what that's going to actually do for them is it's going to provide a hedge for them for terminations, right? Because when you charge more per file, but you have fewer files, if the files terminate, you're out more money. If you have larger volume and a deal terminates, you're out less income overall. So there's a couple of different ways that you can pitch that, but that would be the approach that I would take. Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We just, we might have to meet in the future. I mean, you might have to coach me on specific.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. Awesome. Anybody else? See, David found his way back.
Nicole, I have a question on your tasks list.
Yes.
So I kind of was going back and forth with having a task list with every single possible thing that needs to be done.
Yep.
And then having one that's more generalized, only because I felt like I was spending my entire day checking things off and not doing the job because I was checking things off. I don't have anybody, that I have to train. So, that I can do whatever I want, basically. But do you find that when you do your list that you really have to be super duper detailed, like put the file in the, in the folder and then check that off? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we do break it down very, very step by step for a lot of things, like, like upload the inspection report to the agent's file. Like that's a task on our checklist. And yeah, it might seem a little bit overkill to some people, but if you do get to that point, Tina, where you are wanting to bring somebody else on board and it not just be you, that's going to ensure that they're going to do the exact same thing, right? Because, people, you can't just assume that people are going to know exactly what to do. If you're planning on it just being you for the entire duration of your career, then I would say, yeah, it's probably overkill. To do that, you might not need that. Right. But if you're wanting to consistently grow year over year, that means you're going to have to hire. And if you want to hire, you want to make sure that your new hire is going to provide the same level of service. And in order to do that, breaking it down into those bite-sized pieces is going to actually help and make that feasible for you. So I'd say there's a line between, how much you want to break it down. But in general, if it is an actual thing, task to do, like we don't have a task that's like, download the inspection report from your inbox, right? And then upload it to the agent's file. It's like, no, like add the inspection report to the agent's file, right? Like here's an email template telling the agent, like, hey agent, I've got all the inspection reports in your file. Let me know if I can help you draft a repair proposal or whatever it might be, right? So, kind of use your best judgment when you're trying to decide, like, should this be, if I was teaching this to somebody brand new, right, would I want to have a step to ensure that this doesn't get missed? I hope that makes sense. Awesome. We have a couple minutes left. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything I can help with?
There's one
Sarah.
Sarah, yeah.
Yes. What systems do you use? So we are currently using TC Docs as our transaction coordination tool. That's what we've been using since about 2018. And it does work very well. It's a very powerful tool, but there's a lot of other things that you can use. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are using Airtable at a crazy high level. David likes, the virtual whiteboard, using the Google tools. And there's a lot of people using Open to Close and other specific TC management software as well. We use TC Docs, and that works for us.
The one thing that I would say on that is get specific about your verbiage. Okay.
Yes.
Your tool is not your system, and your system is not your tool. Distinguish the difference between those. I can't stress that enough. And if you're not sure what that means, reach out and let's talk about that. I can't even stress how important that is, because if you develop a system that will help run your business, the tool becomes irrelevant. Okay. You need to build the system that's going to help you to run the business that you desire to build and run. Then what happens once you choose the tool is there to help you implement the system that you designed. A system is not a tool, and a tool is not a system. And it's okay if that's a new concept, but don't even let yourself mix those two words up in your own verbiage.
Yeah.
That's crucial. That's crucial moving forward for growth.
Thank you for pointing that out. I'm so used to hearing it, I didn't even catch it, but it is something that I try to think about in my own, day-to-day. Yeah, our system is our checklist. That's what our system is our checklist for TC management. Our checklist is housed in the tool, which is TC Docs.
Yeah. Okay. The one thing I'm going to point out, and then I think we're going to wrap it up here, is, first of all, thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Now, I just want to make sure everybody is aware is same thing that we do on a lot of these webinars is Chrissy is going to do an amazing job taking the notes from this webinar, and she's going to make a nice little PDF that everybody can print out. And actually that will be available. So that will be, if you're a part of the practical side of real estate membership site, that will be in the webinar section. And you'll notice that the video is there. And then there'll be a download button. That's not to download the video, that's to download the PDF of all of Nicole's notes. Then what we'll do is we'll actually host those notes also on a Google Drive or something. So when we put it up on, what's that place called? YouTube. When we put it up on YouTube is that we'll put a link in the description so that you can download those notes as well. And man, I'm just crazy grateful for you, Nicole, like nobody's business. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to say on the way out? You did an amazing job. I mean, there's crazy value.
Just thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. I hope people found some value in it. And please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you if anybody's looking for a coach. I'd love to see if we're a good fit.
And if anybody's looking for her link, it was in the description or in the comments, but obviously that's going to go away in about a minute. And what we'll do is we'll repost her link to her page in the group as well. So tons of love, everybody. We love you. We love you. We love you. Please stay healthy. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.